you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Buhari arrives in Paris to join over 50 world leaders for the One Planet Summit. EFCC takes fight against corruption to the streets of Nigeria to elicit the support of citizens in the crusade to tackle the menace. Court of Appeal strikes out corruption charge against Justice Hailazira Ngajua, says NJC should discipline judge first. EFCC describes ruling as dangerous. And suspected mastermind of an attempted terror attack at the New York City's main bus terminal arrested. And just to quickly remind you that for more on our top stories and others, please visit our website channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. And log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device, or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have access to the Eyewitness feature, with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu, and then follow the instructions. Now, as part of activities to commemorate the 2017 Anti-Corruption Day, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has held rallies in various parts of the country with a call on citizens to join the anti-corruption efforts of the federal government. Our judiciary correspondent Shola Shoyele captures the mood in the rallies, which held in some major cities across the country.
We begin from the South-South, where the zonal office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, organized a road walk in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, to commemorate this year's Anti-Corruption Day. The walk took officials of the EFCC, members of the civil society and youth corps members across the streets of Port Harcourt with a common message for citizens to join in the anti-graft war.
Globally, today is being marked as World Anti-Corruption Day. In our own peculiar situation in Nigeria, where we have achieved a real milestone in recovery of stolen funds in asset and money, and what more, the federal government has introduced the whistleblower policy, whereby if you blow whistle and information is being utilized that leads to recovery or prosecution, you are going to be handsomely paid.
In Edo State, also in the South-South, members of the Edo Civil Society also joined officials of the EFCC Benin Zone in a walk across some major streets in Benin City, the Edo State capital. The head of the EFCC's Benin Zone says the fight against corruption must not be left for the Commission alone.
All of us must join our hands together to fight this canker war. The bad roads we have, the ill-equipped hospitals, the bad educational systems are all offshoots of corruption.
In Lagos, the rally kicks off from the Ikoyi office of the EFCC. As with other cities, members of civil society, youth corps members and other stakeholders also joined officials of the anti-graft agency in a walk around town, drumming up support for the ongoing war against corruption. Carrying placards bearing different inscriptions, the message is the same: Nigerians must unite in the war against graft. The EFCC restates its total commitment to the war and remains confident that the creation of special courts will help speed up prosecution of cases.
Usually the delay is caused by, there's so much clustering of cases for a particular judge. The civil cases, the criminal cases are all under one court. So when you have special courts dedicated to anti-corruption cases, I think it will help to speed up the process.
The EFCC in Kano State, northwest Nigeria, also joined its counterparts across the country to mark the Anti-Corruption Day. The zonal coordinator of the zone says the anti-corruption war will not spare any corrupt person.
The benefit of this campaign we have started has started yielding a better result. If you look at it before, you hardly hear very politically exposed people being prosecuted. But today, if you look at the banner, look at that banner of this civil society, fight against corruption, give EFCC free hand, no interference. As I'm talking to you now, that issue of interference is no longer there in the EFCC cases.
Most Nigerians agree that corruption remains the bane of development in the country. With the EFCC reaffirming its commitment to fight against corruption, Nigerians must fully play their part if the war must be totally won. Shola Shoyeli, Channels Television News.
There's a fresh call on officers of the Nigerian Army to work with a mindset which allows for tolerance and promotion of ideals that would strengthen Nigeria's unity and erase the trust deficit in the Nigerian military. Now, those were the words of the retired Major General Ike Nwachukwu at this year's Chief of Army Staff Conference holding in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. The annual event is a forum for identifying milestones reached by the military within a year, establish benchmarks and chart a new course on how to effectively play their role in the coming year.
14723. It's a gathering that has brought together senior officers in the Nigerian Army and top government functionaries, including the governor of Oyo State. They are here for the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference, where an appraisal of the Army's activities in the outgoing year is done. Strategies adopted are reviewed and projections made for the coming year.
In the third quarter of the year 2017, the challenges of increased militancy, pipeline vandalism, and kidnapping in the southern part of the country were accorded appropriate attention in the Nigerian Army Order of Battle 2016 by the operationalization of the 6th Division with its headquarters in Port Harcourt.
The conference is not expected to be a talk shop, as participants are to deliberate on new strategies to confront major security issues affecting the country.
It is evident that our armed forces has moved to the next level in its sense of organizational commitment, sacrifice, responsiveness, and national pride.
The guest speaker, Major General Ike Nwachukwu retired, speaks on how the Nigerian Army can build a truly cohesive and highly professional national army, devoid of ethnic or religious bias.
To safeguard our unity and sovereignty, it is time to make amends and embrace one another in love and respect as citizens of Nigeria, knowing that we are interdependent regardless of ethnicity, religious beliefs, gender, and political affiliations. Consequently, efforts should be made to create a national army truly representative of the population. A multi-ethnic army like ours should avoid giving the impression that it promotes ethnic or religious superiority. Like the Indian Army, it should use the ethnic and religious diversity through regimental system to build a cohesive and highly professional institution.
Other speakers here acknowledge the Army's professionalism in the fight against terrorism, the Army's apolitical system of operation, and their ability to uphold Nigeria's unity.
While it is true that many security infractions currently assail our people, it is heartwarming that the Nigerian Army has been up to the task of defending our nation and its assets, and I will give them a distinction in this aspect.
One of the high points of the conference is the winging of 10 newly commissioned pilots in the Nigerian Army, trained to fly military helicopters to complement efforts of ground troops on the battlefield.
Let's cross over to Abuja now. Here's Ibrahim Adra. Ibrahim.
Hello, Ijoma. Let's start from the National Assembly, where the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, is advocating the need to redefine how policies are designed in Nigeria and the need to provide funds for creating jobs. The Senate President put forward this position at a public hearing on youth development and empowerment at the National Assembly. Senator Saraki also states the need for federal lawmakers to take some of the blame for the inadequacies that have been observed in some of the interventions. Our correspondent Lanre Lasisi has the report.
Nigeria's population is estimated to be over 193 million, with a youth labor force of over 38 million, most of whom are out of work. The challenge before the country is how to engage this vibrant population. This is part of the focus of this public hearing organized by the Senate on youth development and empowerment. It's a chance to hear from government agencies about some of their efforts at job creation.
We coordinate the families, we pay the caregivers in every household the amount of 10,000 every 2 months, so 5,000 a month. Then we form them into cooperatives and we train them on life skills, on basic financial skills, on how to take ownership of their lives. So it's beyond just the handout, it's also enabling them and facilitating their businesses or their focus.
We deliver what we call business development service, which includes capacity building, mentoring, counseling, provision of advisory services.
Some of the civil society organizations present are critical of these efforts.
So when these interventions are launched, 2 years down the line, people are unable to access it. And I'll speak to the CBN 220 billion fund. When it was launched in 2013, the guidelines said you have to have 75% bank guarantee before you can access the fund. And the question is, why will I pledge 750,000 with the commercial bank to come take 1 million? Because that's the simple implication.
The Senate President also makes some observations.
What have you been able to, and what is your target? Same with Sweden, same with... I think it's important because the impression I'm getting is that these programs are just being done with no target. It keeps the agency going. It creates jobs for the boys. And at the end of the day, if he can create jobs, well, good.
After some clarification by the agencies, the Senate President puts some of the blame on the National Assembly.
Then I will also ask our own colleagues too. We must take also part of this blame because we are in charge of the oversight. We must be able to see that there are results for it. So I'm hoping that by the time we've finished talking today, with everybody's contribution, we have to redefine how we come up with these programs and how we spend all these different monies that we allocate for these different programs.
One of the issues that has been identified here is the need for an internal monitoring and evaluation system for these interventions and a proper partnership with states and local governments across the country. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
All right, many thanks, Larry. Now, when the News at 10 returns, federal government to release 750 billion naira this week for capital project expenditure in the 2017 budget. That's on Business News. To join us again.